YouTube, today we're going to be talking about choosing spells for D&D and how to pick spells for your character and what you want to do, what's best for you, and what are all your options. So yeah, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So, as a person, an individual with magic that will probably have spells, unless you got spells from your race and you're playing a martial class, that's a whole nother can of worms, but whatever. We're talking about people that are specifically playing some sort of caster, whether that be a half caster, 1/3 caster, full caster, known or prepared spellcaster. Things to consider when choosing your spells, specifically for D&D. I have a whole video on prepared and known casters, so go and check that out if you want to learn more about those. But prepared casters can choose their spells every day, so this is less of a problem for prepared casters, whereas in this video, when you are specifically choosing the spells that you'll know, this is more important for known casters, where you can only choose your spells when you level up. So you're going to have a long time where you're not going to be able to choose and go in and out of your spells. And half casters and sometimes 1/3 casters can also be known or prepared. This depends on the class you are, whatever. But to be honest, this video can really apply to both. It's just going to depend if you like to change your spells every day out, or even I've met a lot of prepared casters that don't like to change their spells out every day, so this video could work for you too. But yeah, if you're a full caster, you get spell slots of up to level 9 all the way. Half casters, you get up to level 5, and 1/4 or 1/3 casters, which are the same thing, people just call them different things, you get up to 4th level spell slots. And if you're a warlock, you're essentially like, you get up to 5th level spell slots, but it's really different. You're just a whole shilla bing bang boom, but the way you choose spells can still definitely apply from this video. So, yeah. So, does spell choice even matter? Like, why the hell are we talking about this? What the heck? What the ding dong do? So, well, it depends. It completely depends on a bunch of different things. So, what kind of game are you playing, first of all? Are you playing a game that is like a grindy death machine dungeon battler where it's one after another, you're just fighting, there's hardly any roleplay? Or are you playing a game where it's almost all roleplay, you almost never get into combat encounters, everything is, you know, you gotta talk your way out of things, or maybe somewhere in between where most people tend to play, usually, is kind of in that average somewhere in between area. That might affect how you go about choosing what spells you take. Because if you're in a grindy machine and you're not really role-playing, you probably are going to want to min-max. Really, you probably don't care that much about, you know, your character. Maybe you like their abilities and stuff, but you probably don't have feelings for the same way you would in a character that's a more role-play focused campaign, where you might want to take spells that more fit the theme or element of your character. So, do you want your choices to fit the theme of your character to begin with, right? We just kind of touched on that, but that's another big consideration here. Some people, like if you're playing a wizard, you might not generally have a theme that surrounds your magic as much, maybe more so compared to something like a sorcerer. So a wizard, it may not matter to you, or it could matter greatly. Like if you're a wizard and you really want to specialize in lightning magic and you want to be this all-consuming lightning connoisseur for whatever reason that your backstory requires, then that might be a really great option for you if you want to like theme your spells in that way, because it makes sense for the progression of your character. And do you just simply want the best spells? Because that's also an option. Do you just want the best mechanical spells so that way you have fun playing your character and they feel strong and you enjoy that? And like, also another thing to consider is really, what does magic truly mean to your character? Is it something that's important to them? Is it something that has happened to them? Is it something they want to understand? Is it something that they reject or they hate? Like, where do they fall? And I think this is also kind of where the spectrum comes into play of being a full or a half caster or like a 1/3 caster, because then that also is going to change your experience with magic and the powerful magic you have, as well as the different kinds of people in your party and just the different people you come across in your journey. So it's really, once again, one of those, like, it depends things, but these are all things that may potentially impact your choices. So say if you are, let's say you're a cleric and you really don't have any damaging spells, but you come across this super high powerful mage and they really inspire you to be like, well, maybe it is important for me to not just heal my allies, but, you know, to also like, I understand the balance between life and death more, and maybe death is also just as important as life now. So then you choose to take damaging spells because of that interaction. So that's why it kind of really, it all depends. And I think it's just things to like, these are just kind of things to have in the back of your mind when you're going about spell choices and really why you want them and why they're important. So, oh, not this one. Anyway, so we're going to talk about this first. So I wanted to really give you guys an example of how spell choice could affect gameplay and your mechanics. So first off, we're going to use the Lunar Sorcerer as an example. One, because I think the Lunar Sorcerer is a very thematic subclass. However, I think that it does not a great thing in spell choice, because I think spell choice for Lunar Sorcerer is awful in the spells that you get. Some of them are really great and make a lot of sense. However, others are absolutely horrific. So, I think that really it's all gonna depend, and I wanted to give you some examples. But first off, for the spells they get, because they have 3 different, I guess, phases of the moon they can choose from, it's kind of gonna impact gameplay a little bit. Not too much, but it's definitely more so for thematics here. So you're going to get Shield, Lesser Restoration, Dispel Magic, and we're only going to talk about 3rd level spells and below in this video, because when we get into higher level spells, And for New Moon, you get Ray of Sickness, Blindness, Deafness, Vampiric Touch, and for Crescent Moon, Color Spray, Alter Self, and Phantom Steed. So I think that the full moon and the crescent moon definitely do pretty okay jobs, and new moon is okay. However, there's literally a spell in the game called Moonbeam, and they left it off the damn spell list, and Sorcerer can't learn that spell normally, so there's no way for the fucking Moon Sorcerer to get the spell Moonbeam, which in my opinion makes no sense, because it was on the UA for this Sorcerer and they fucking took it off, and I'm like, bruh. Just flavor-wise, like, how could you do that? But, you know. Anyway, so those are kind of the spells you get, and I'm gonna give you guys some examples of what you might take for more thematic choices. Specifically, I kind of focus more on like the crescent moon and the full moon spell lists versus the new moon spell lists, so you'll kind of see those reflected in the spell choice. And then also some min-max examples, and then kind of what I think a lot of people do is probably a good combination of both. So, for examples here, oh, this is a little bit off. Oh, no bueno. Uno momento. Oh, all right. Let me just, so you guys can see this. There we go. All right. So, for theme spells, right, we have Minor Illusion, Absorb Elements, Mirror Image, Invisibility, Major Image, and Daylight. So these are spells that are mostly illusion or abjuration, which kind of fit in more so with the schools of magic that have to do with the full moon and the crescent moon schools. And most of these spells are pretty good, but they're also not your best options that you could take. While for min-max, if you're playing maybe more of like a grindy game that's more so numbers, damage based, whatever, we have Chill Touch, Silvery Barbs, Vortex Warp, Counterspell, Lightning Bolt, and Fireball. And granted, there might be better min-max options. I'm just trying to kind of give you guys like a general idea or a feel for what I mean by like, and what I mean when I'm kind of saying these things. So, and for both, I kind of wanted to combine them as well as potentially pick some different options that might still fit the theme, but might be a little bit better than some of the spells that we have for the theme section. So we went with Minor Illusion, because that's great for roleplay. Silvery Barbs, which isn't super thematic, but it's just such a great spell to have. Invisibility, which is definitely a little bit more thematic, but it's also a good spell still. Fly, which is a great utility spell. While it doesn't do damage, it is amazing utility, and it's very thematic because, you know, well, the moon has lower gravity than Middle Earth or wherever you're playing. So I thought that might fit. as well as lightning bolt, because that's a fun one, and I feel like the lightning bolt with the lightning and electricity and sky fits a little bit better than fireball for this character, which is why I chose that one over fireball, even though fireball might be a little bit better, but lightning bolt is still a phenomenal spell. And then I did go with daylight. Well, it's not the best spell, really. I thought it was still very thematic, and I think if you talk to your DM, you could probably reflavor it as moonlight instead of daylight, which is kind of why I picked it, because I thought it could be even more thematic at the end of the day. So, yeah, that's kind of what I went with. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed my little lecture of how to potentially pick your spells and kind of what you would like to pick in terms of what are your goals for your character and how do you want to roleplay them and the kind of campaign you're in and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, questions. Also, hello chat. I will talk to chat now that the YouTube video is